ride through the Dandenong ranges with me horse for me friend. I start up, way, finish at the other end, la-da-la-da-da. I got the little lass in sassafras and she's a real true blue. She's a little beauty and I reckon she's a cutie and she reckons I'm good. Hi! You ought to see the place in autumn. It really is a Ponza sight. The leaves falling down all yellow and brown. You'd reckon it was alright. La-da-da-da-da. People reckon I'm crackers, but I don't care what they say. I'll keep riding round the dandy flaming blooming long range till the day I die.
This is the story of growing up in Olinda at the beginning of the 20th century. It is told by long-term residents of Olinda who were the children of the first pioneers. They also shared with me their unique collection of photographs. The early settlers were largely those who took up land offered by the government during the Great Depression of the 1890s. On this land, covered with huge mountain ash and forest, they toiled hard to wrest a living from the soil. So it is a story of survivors, told by the stalwart people who have now since passed away. It is a story, therefore, that has passed out of living memory, and so it is truly a unique story, a treasure house of memories, and I am sure you'll enjoy. I'm grateful to Pat Hogan of the Mount Dandenong and District Historical Society who encouraged me to make this research public. She has also painstakingly transcribed the hours of interviews that I intend to publish later online. My thanks also to Malcolm Johnson, a local historian with an incomparable knowledge of the early history of white settlement along the mountain ridge. Malcolm has kindly corrected some of the captions on photographs that you're about to see. Perhaps I should say a word about the quality of the recordings that were made nearly 40 years ago on a cheap cassette tape recorder, and some of the tapes have deteriorated somewhat. Some of the voices you may find hard to hear, but the stories are such that it would be a crime not to publish them. Altogether there are 6 videos on YouTube of approximately 15 minutes each. I hope you get as much pleasure out of these as I have had in making them.
The first invasion of the mountains by white men was by the timber getters.
Yes.
And they moved in with bullocks and bullock wagons. And where they went, they made a track. And that, of course, became the bullock track. Now, they went in from the basin. And they went up from the basin up towards Ferny Creek. They turned around what is now the 1 and 20 road, and they went up into Ferny Creek, and they joined it just near where the entrance to Sherbrooke Forest is. Then another one went up straight up to Sassafras there, and then another one went up along the ridge from the basin to Olinda, and then one came in from Lilydale along through Sylvan and into the forest, that one. And it was that one, of course, that the settlers used to take them into the valley. And then there were others that came up from Ferny Creek, from Ferntree Gully. One went up Blind Creek and went up to One Tree Hill, and others came in up the valley there at Ferntree Gully and went up through to Belgrave and in the back of Sassafras. And then there were others came in from Narry Warren. They came into Belgrave area. And others again came into the Monbulk area from Emerald Way. So the mountain was a web of bullock tracks in the early days.
Percy, what do you know about the Holdens, who were the early splitters in Olinda?
Yeah, some of those. They were splitting up on top of what they call Barnes's Lookout. And that rails, palings and what have you. And likewise they split a lot of the timber for the houses that was first built around these hills. But as far as those Holdens, well, they were known as paling splitters. And how many years they were at it, I wouldn't know around here. Because I know that there was a tree stood in front of where the hotel is now. And they scaffolded it the one day and hopped into it the next. And they went back at night with lamps to fill it. They said there was no bloody tree that big to two old. That was uncle and nephew.
Wasn't one with the 60-foot girth I've seen a picture of.
13 foot 6 of course where they took it off, and old Harry Holden was caretaker of Donaldson's many years after, knocked the guts out of it and put a roof on it and used it as a bullshed. That was there until, I suppose 25 years ago. Just trees in the hill. Yeah, no bloody tree ever beat the two Holdens, and they finished it off in lamplight at the ground at 9:15.
The timber splitters had been visiting the mountains really since the beginning of Melbourne in 1835. They came up and sought large trees, particularly trees for masts of ships, trees for timber for building houses, but they never lived permanently in Olinda. One of the very earliest people to come to Olinda and to actually settle on the land was George Dodd. I'm talking to Mr. Alan Dodd, who is George Dodd's grandson, about George. Alan, what did George do before he came to Olinda?
My grandfather was what's it called, a wandering veteran in those days, and in his cars with him, they went on horseback. Yes. And he called himself a veterinary surgeon, of course, in those days. They call them veterinaries now. Yes. And he had places, go all through Gippsland, Phillipwell, and all those places. Yes. He didn't do any good at the digging, so he went back to his profession. And he had a place over in Mulgrave Shire, a place called Notting Hill. It's just over here. Not far from what they call the village of Oakley in those days. It's not much like a village now.
It certainly isn't.
And that's where they came through to here. They came in here called Peckle.
Yeah.
Bayswater was the nearest place. It had some sort of a store down there, and many of the early German settlers of Bayswater were already there. Many of them been lots of friends of mine, and some of them related to me. I was at the war with a number of them.
So they came up really from the basin?
Through the basin, yes. They came across, what's the name of the hill between? They came from Notting Hill across through Oakley, and then down through where Fantry Gully is now, Lower Gully, and up a bush track to here.
Yes. How did they live in those first few years? Brought all their supplies with them, or lived off the land, or what?
Well, as far as our people were concerned, I suppose he wanted a place to. He had 7 sons and a daughter, the youngest, boy was only a small infant.
Yes.
And he wanted a place for them to settle on. See, they were all good horsemen, they were all good shot. And I suppose he helped them live originally, but they were splitted and we sold even tree fern, but they always kept their own tree fern gullies. They wouldn't touch their own gullies, fortunately for me.
Yeah, very wise, yeah.
He was an Englishman, and a lot of the English people, all they thought of was getting their own trees and they're the same as England. They had its pipes.
Iris, you must have seen a lot of big trees come down. Have you ever seen this picture of this giant tree?
That's it. Of course, that's the big tree, giant tree. That used to be in Sherbrooke Forest. Because we used to have a lot of those. There was a tree at Sassafras. I only have been told about it. I never saw it. But it was down near Ross Trevor, and it's held. It must have had a bushfire in it years ago, and it had hollowed out.
Yes.
And I could put a double bed and a table in it. So.
Did George Dodd have anything to do with the goldfields in Victoria?
Well, yes, he came here to the goldfields. But I don't know. He didn't get any gold anyway. No, he was friendly with a couple of old miners, a lifelong friend of my family that had mined and been successful. But I think that the fact that he was a man who loved horses, and he lived for horses and dogs,